Urgent! G-Men fan, look at what just happened. Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest Big Blue news, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Giants superstar receiver pushing front office to draft dual-threat quarterback. The New York Giants are likely to draft a quarterback at some point in the 2025 NFL Draft, but the decision of which one continues to stir debate behind the scenes. However, one voice that's beginning to stand out from the crowd belongs to the team's budding superstar wide receiver Malik Nabers, who has his sights set on one-man Alabama quarterback Jaylen Milroe. Nabers made his feelings clear, according to Milroe, on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams, publicly backing him as his preferred choice. The two already share chemistry off the field, and Nabers is confident they can build something special on it. Malik Nabers wants his guy Nabers, the Giants' prized rookie from the 2024 class, wasted no time proving his value. He put up 84 receptions for 1,004 yards and 7 touchdowns in his first NFL season, becoming the clear WR1 for Big Blue and one of the lone bright spots in an otherwise inconsistent offense. That kind of production has given him not just credibility, but influence, especially when it comes to identifying the kind of quarterback that fits his game. What Milroe brings to the table? Milroe may not be the polished passer some evaluators hope for, but his skill set is dripping with untapped potential. The Alabama dual-threat star posted 2,134 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions in 2024. On the ground, he rushed for 879 yards and added 21 touchdowns, offering a level of mobility that can change the dynamics of an offense in an instant. He's a true downfield thrower with a cannon for an arm, hosting one of the best deep ball completion rates in college football. What he lacks in short and intermediate touch, he makes up for with escapability, improvisation, and chunk. Plays in the vertical game. A year to grow, the Giants are in a position where they can afford to let a rookie quarterback develop behind veteran Russell Wilson. Milroe would be an ideal candidate to sit and learn for a season under the guidance of Brian Daboll, who helped shape Josh Allen into a star in Wilson, who won a Super Bowl and knows what it takes to lead a team. This scenario allows the Giants to take a shot on a high-upside talent without rushing his development. Milroe needs refinement, but with his physical tools and the right infrastructure, he could evolve into a long-term starter. Giants' big decision. While the Giants continue to weigh their options, having a trusted weapon like Nabers already vouch for Milroe may influence the conversation in the war room. Building around your top offensive players is often a wise move, especially when the quarterback and wide receiver can grow together. With the chemistry already established and the ceiling sky high, Milroe could be the exact lottery ticket this franchise has been searching for. Pausing this news just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest Big Blue news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks, now let's get back to the news. Giants-Titans trade pitch brings number 1. Pick franchise QB to New York. The New York Giants were among the many teams looking to trade up to the number 1 overall pick this offseason, but a deal has yet to come to fruition. With the Tennessee Titans holding the number 1 spot, it's expected that they will stay put and select quarterback Cam Ward. There were even reports that Tennessee rejected an offer from the Giants earlier this offseason, but the NFL has never been a league that abides by expectations. There is still a world where the Giants trade up for the number 1 pick. A proposal from Thomas Valentine of Pro Football Focus was made before the draft arrives Thursday, and it would be a slam dunk for New York. Giants receive pick number 1 and a 2026. 6th-rounder Titans receive pick nose 3, 65 and 134, and a 2026 first-rounder. Moving up 2 spots without giving up the number 34 overall pick seems like a major win for the Giants. It wouldn't feel great parting ways with a future first-round pick, but that's the price the Giants would have to pay regardless, considering both teams need quarterbacks. Being able to draft Ward at number 1 overall while still holding onto their high second-round pick would give the Giants the chance to add some major talent to the roster. It's a hefty price to pay, but one New York should be willing to make after 10 losing seasons in 12 years. Ward doesn't solve all of the Giants' problems, but he's talented enough that they could feel comfortable building a team around him as their franchise quarterback. He earned an elite 92, 5 PFF overall grade in 2024, Valentine wrote. It's unlikely a deal like this gets done, especially so close to the draft, but it would certainly be one New York would have to consider. Giants could be dealing with serious internal tension over star quarterback prospect as the New York Giants inch closer to making their pivotal third overall selection in the 2025 NFL Draft. The spotlight isn't just on the players, they're also sharing the stage with a front office seemingly torn on what direction to take. At the center of the divide, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Sanders is one of the most debated prospects in this year's class. His college resume is impressive. He was surgical with his accuracy, poised in the pocket, and demonstrated elite control of the game, but his NFL projection is a little more complex. He lacks the big-time arm strength teams covet at the next level, and he's not the most dynamic athlete when the pocket collapses. That's created a wide range of opinions across the league, and apparently within the Giants' own building. A draft. Room Tuguf War, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Giants are reportedly split on Sanders. While some in the building are high on the Colorado product, others remain hesitant, possibly due to concerns about his ceiling and how he'll handle NFL-level pressure. Head coach Brian Daboll addressed the media on Monday and did his best to calm the waters, emphasizing communication and respect in the draft process. There is really good communication, and not just with the quarterbacks, with each position, Daboll said. It's okay to disagree. You're not going to be disagreeable. Everybody has thoughts and opinions of what they evaluate and what they see. Daboll stressed that despite the differing opinions, the decision will be unified when the pick is made. There is a lot of good give and take, and at the end of the day, when you're drafting a player, everybody is on board with who you draft and the process which we go through. But General Manager Joe Schoen had a more definitive tone earlier in the day, stating that the final call ultimately comes down to him. That may sound like a normal dynamic GM holds the gavel, but when those philosophies are being publicly articulated in such different tones, it raises a red flag about how aligned the leadership team really is. Red flags shouldn't be ignored, if there are internal doubts about Sanders, and clearly there are. It begs the question, is he worth the risk at number 3 overall? The Giants aren't just drafting a quarterback, they're drafting the potential future of their franchise. If the decision-makers are divided now, what happens when adversity inevitably hits? Quarterbacks require full buy-in from the building. If Daboll, Schoen, the scouting department, and the coaching staff aren't all on the same page, it could set everyone up for failure. That's not a knock on Sanders, it's a commentary on the situation. Draft the talent, not the narrative. The smart play might be drafting the best overall player, someone who helps the Giants win games in 2025. Because let's be real, if Daboll and Schoen don't start stacking wins soon, they won't be around to see what Sanders becomes. That means prioritizing guys who can make an impact right now, while also finding a developmental quarterback later in the draft who can be coached up behind Russell Wilson. This doesn't have to be a leap of faith moment. It can still be a building block draft, but only if the Giants resist the temptation to reach and listen to the parts of the room that are urging caution. Giants have reportedly made big decision about Shedeur Sanders. The New York Giants have shown interest in Shedeur Sanders leading up to the 2025 NFL Draft, but all signs point to them selecting a different player, at least with the number 3 overall pick. During the latest episode of his self-titled podcast, longtime NFL draft analyst Todd McShay said he believes the real draft will start this year when the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock at number 5. That is because he thinks the first 4 teams have already made up their minds. The Tennessee Titans are a lock to take Cam Ward first overall. McShay believes the Cleveland Browns will then draft Travis Hunter, followed by the Giants selecting Abdul Carter at number 3. Until I tell you, or maybe Schefter breaks it or something else, all the information I'm getting, and it's from trusted sources, is that it's going to wind up being Abdul Carter at number 3, even though there are people in the Giants building that are pushing for Shedeur Sanders, McShay said. The New England Patriots are widely expected to draft former LSU offensive lineman Will Campbell with the 4th pick. Sanders worked out for a contingent of Giants officials in Boulder, Colo last week. There have been serious doubts about whether the quarterback will be drafted by any team in the top 10, however. One theory is that the Giants may have been trying to drum up trade interest in the 3rd overall pick by showing serious interest in Sanders. Or New York might be preparing for a scenario where they acquire an additional pick late in the 1st round if Sanders is still on the board. Either way, it would be a surprise if the Giants took Sanders at number 3. There is always a chance that Ownership could step in and make that decision, but McShay says the team's coaching staff does not want Sanders at that spot. If the Giants pass on Sanders as expected, they may target a different quarterback later in the draft. 3 ways for the New York Giants to win the 2025 NFL Draft focus on whom they can get rather than whom they probably can't were into the home stretch before the NFL Draft actually occurs. And thank goodness, because the endless speculating is enough to drive any fan crazy. Like last year, the players the New York Giants, or at least their fans, really want seem to be just tantalizingly out of their reach. In 2024, it was Jaylen Daniels and Drake May, in some order. This year, it seems to be Cam Ward and Travis Hunter, who are unattainable, though we won't know for sure until Thursday evening. I love both players, and it will pain me to see them come off the board nose dead 1-2 if that's what happens. I'll console myself, though, with the knowledge that the guy they did get at number 6 last year is really, really good. You could argue that they got the second best player in the draft, and only that low because the quarterback position is so coveted in today's NFL. It's possible the same may happen this year. I've done fewer mock drafts this year than in years past because I've felt that the big boards underlying them bear less resemblance to what's actually going to happen than in years past. That's because big boards are about ranking the best players, while the actual draft values quarterbacks more highly than how good they actually are because so many teams are desperate for one, and in today's NFL you can't win it all without one. We saw that last year when fans and the media were speculating that even if the Giants missed out on Daniels, May, and Caleb Williams, they could go wide receiver at number 6 and take one of Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, or Bo Nix in round 2, or trade up into the bottom of round 1 to do so. Instead, all 3 were gone by number 12, and they never had a chance even if they had wanted to. This year is a little different because all of the top QBs in the draft are considered not to be as good as any of the 6 taken in round 1 last year. I don't necessarily agree with that. Ward, to my non-expert eye, sits in the middle of last year's top 6. Still, you can't just assume that the board will play out the way you want it to. Instead, I'm going to do 3 mock drafts in which I try to solve the Giants' problems, roster problems, anyway, in different ways. All 3 will follow these basic rules. Cam Ward and Travis Hunter go at number 1 and number 2. I do this by drafting for Tennessee and Cleveland as well as the Giants, but after the top 2 picks, I just select the BPA for both of those teams, for all. Subsequent picks regardless of position or perceived need based on the Pro Football Network mock draft big board. For the Giants, though, I try to match value with need in my choices, assuming that the Giants have 5 needs. The biggest ones at QB, IDL, and edge defender and secondary needs at CB and G. I try to deal with the 3 biggest needs in picks, 3, 34, and 65 if I can without reaching, and then I try to address the other 2 needs at picks 99 and 105 if possible. The first 3 Giants picks rotate among the 3 positions in my 3 drafts just to show what the possibilities are. No trades allowed, and I just do 4 rounds. I'm not against trades at all. I'm just trying for this exercise to see how the depth of the draft pool at the positions I'm interested in allows me to fill needs without reaching in different ways, since we have no idea what Joe Schoen's big board looks like, much less those of the other 31 teams. You may feel the 5 positions I mention are not the Giants' biggest needs. I don't think anyone would argue that a QB of the future and another IDL aren't huge needs. To me, edge defender is a need because Kayvon Thibodeaux's future as a Giant is uncertain and you can't have too many pass rushers. And anyway, it's a very deep edge class. Boundary cornerback may not be a need if Tay-Banks becomes the player he was drafted to be, or if Trey Hawkins III becomes the player we briefly saw in the Saints game before he got hurt. Barring one of those, though, CB2 is still a big question. Mark, I assume Drew Phillips at slot corner is a done deal. I don't consider G an issue for this season with John Runyon Jr., Greg Van Roten, and maybe Evan Neal holding the fort. But I want a rookie on the roster to be able to fill one of those spots next year. I would add center to the list, but it's a lean year for those. I could see them taking a C in round 5. I did not include offensive tackle because the Giants are set for this year with Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Elwemenor as starters, and they signed 2 free agents, one of whom, James Hudson, is getting $6M guaranteed this year. I won't be shocked if they take a tackle on day 2, but my guess is they won't. So here are my mock drafts. In my discussions, I indicate with a number in parentheses the round in which each player falls relative to the BBV big board that Chris and Nick released yesterday. Or NA, if the player didn't make their 5-round big board, the don't pass on an elite player draft. To me, this is the most likely scenario for the Giants. I can't see them passing on an elite talent like Abdul Carter top 10 at a premier position. He can be part of the edge rotation and also part of the off-ball linebacker rotation, which addresses the objection some people have to using number 3 on what they see as a part-time player. Jaylen Milroe 2 gives them a developmental QB with a ton of potential who can sit for a year and develop his short game. Kenneth Grant 1 is a first-round talent who somehow drops to number 65 in this mock. He'd be just the guy to clog the Giants' leaky middle next to Dexter Lawrence. Kobe Bryant 4 is an aggressive boundary corner whom I may be overdrafting a bit at number 99. Miles Frazier 5 is a big and physical guard in the run game, less adept in pass protection. The quarterback. Stupid draft like many people. I am skeptical that Shedeur Sanders 12 can become a top 10 NFL QB, and I think it would be a mistake to draft him as high as number 3. I don't think it would be Daniel Jones all over again, though. Sanders is a very accurate passer who can make all the throws. He just does not have the zip on his deep ball that you'd like, and sometimes holds the ball too long and causes unnecessary pressure. It's too bad he had such an awful offensive line. In front of him, I'd like to know whether he'd have dumped the ball off so much with better protection. Still, I take him number 3 in this draft because it's a real possibility the Giants decide to do that, and it allows me to explore the implications, fulfilling the other needs in later rounds. Tyleik Williams 12 doesn't excite me as much as Kenneth Grant, but like Grant, hell clogged the middle while he develops his pass rush. Oluwafemi Oladejo 3 is a developmental edge defender, but with great potential. To be honest, I'm tempted to go with Josiah Stewart here, but PFN has him much further down their big board, seemingly because he's undersized. Chris and Nick see him as a round 2 value. Quincy Riley 3 is a good coverage corner in both man and zone with good ball skills, but perhaps without the speed to cover deep. Jackson Slater NA is a good pass-blocking guard who is less refined in the run game. The Build the Trenches draft, this is probably the least likely scenario to unfold. But if the Giants want to follow the Eagles' playbook, they could decide to use their first 2 picks to fill out the defensive line and not take a skill player until round 3. Pick number 3 is pretty high for a defensive tackle, but Mason Graham 1 is the consensus DT1 in this draft, and adding edge Landon Jackson 2 at number 34 would give the Giants possibly the best DL in the NFL outside of Philadelphia. Is it what I would do if I were Joe Schoen? No, not least because you should be able to get a really good DT at either number 34 or number 65, as I did in my other 2 drafts, and Graham is not obviously that much better than players like Grant or Derek Harmon. Tyler Show 2 is a real consideration at number 65, having come out of nowhere during the run-up to the draft to enter the Day 2 discussion. It's not even certain he'll be there at number 65. Corey Blackney is a physically gifted corner whose mental game has not yet caught up to his physical gifts. Garrett Dellinger NA is a stretch at this point of the draft, but he does have good strength in the run game, and once the first half dozen or so IOLs are off the board in this IO week draft, everyone else is pretty much a toss-up. Overall, this draft leaves me with more questions than the other 2. This is clearly my least favorite of the 3 mocks I did. I don't know that there is a single player in it that excites me as a slam-dunk combination of talent and value where I took them. The first draft is my favorite. I'd be very excited to walk away with Carter, Milroe, and Grant. Not as excited as it'd be if Ward or Hunter dropped to number 3, but that's life as a Giants fan. Having Lawrence Taylor be on the board at number 2 in 1981 probably exhausted my lifetime allocation of good fortune from the football gods. The bottom line, not surprisingly, most of the attention in this draft for Giants fans is on the number 3 pick, and the Giants have no control over who will be available. It's also a draft that is considered weak at quarterback, although some seemingly strong QB drafts haven't worked out that way once the games began C-2021. You may have noticed that none of my drafts include Jackson Dart. There are 2 reasons for that. One is that Dart is likely to be selected in the bottom half of the first round, far from where the Giants pick, and I include no trades in this exercise, so given the rules I set, that's no man's land for the Giants to get him. In reality, the Giants trading back into the first round to get a QB is a possibility. The second reason is that I see Dart as a huge risk, coming from a very simplified half-field first-read offense with an inordinate amount of play action. The IU? Good news for the Giants is that with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston on the roster, they do not need a starting QB this year and can afford to draft a developmental QB later. I'd prefer to see the Giants wait for round 2 or 3 and see whether Brian Daboll's reputation as a quarterback whisperer can be realized for a second time. The other good news is that if you want a ferocious defense up front, and who wouldn't in today's NFL, this is a good draft to make that happen. That's why I wrote this piece, to show that edge defenders and defensive tackles worth drafting can probably be found pretty easily on day 2 if you want to wait, especially with the Giants. Drafting so high in both rounds, this gives them more flexibility in this draft than many people assume. They can take a QB on day 1 if they really like one, and still beef up the DL on day 2. The Giants have made some awful draft picks in the past. See this Thursday, Friday, Saturday's Big Blue View and 5 trivia game for 3 examples. Never say never, given this franchise's recent history, but the odds are that the Giants will come away with at least a couple of really good players at key positions in this draft. They may even become a good team in 2025. And now, G-Men fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for Big Blue. I'll be back any moment with more Big Blue news. Jets, Jets, Jets. Let's go Giants.